This is Mitch, and welcome to the 1000 Houses podcast. I'm here with David Lecko, and we're going to be talking about the company DealMachine. He's the founder, he's the owner, and he's the driving force behind it. And I'm really interested to talk to him about the morphing of his company as it moved along from the beginning to the end. And then we'll get into these features and what it can be done for you. And I know there's a giveaway for you, so hang on, we're going to get you a free giveaway. Hey, David, how you doing?
Hey, Mitch, it's so good to be back on your podcast. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, you're always a pleasure. I've supported DealMachine for a long time, and it's really a great product, especially for those who are on a shoestring budget, because it's affordable. It can accomplish a lot of things, and what every new investor needs, right, is just to get a deal or two so they can have a budget. You make $15,000 or $20,000 a couple of times. Now you got a budget. You can take, and you can start to roll. You can start to get that momentum and get on down the road, fly a little faster and a little higher, with every successful transaction. So let's start at the beginning. When did you have this idea for DealMachine, and what was that like? How did the epiphany hit you?
And thank you so much for supporting DealMachine. I would say you're the first podcast that I ever remember being on. So it's really awesome and special to be back here. And I also loved those vacations that you did before COVID. I don't think you've had one since, but those are like two really awesome memories that I have with being a part of your community, Mitch. So it's great to be here. And for me, that was back in 2017 is when I founded the business DealMachine. And I was looking for my first rental property earlier than that. It was the middle of 2016. I was working as a software engineer, and it wasn't really fulfilling. I was actually really struggling with like the hours that it required, the lack of freedom that I didn't have. And also I was working in a basement with fluorescent lights at the US Postal Service on their software development team. So I was searching to invest in real estate as a way out, as a way to build financial freedom, and never actually expected to make a software in real estate, but ended up just finding, well, let me rewind a second. I was told to find off-market deals. And if they were going to cash flow, I needed to find them off-market so they would be a better deal, and just kind of discovered this need while I was trying to find my own off-market deals, driving for dollars.
Yeah, it's like, how can I make this easier? Because this is a bitch right now. You got a lot of things to do, and pencil and paper and pads and iPads and notes. And it's like, how do you consolidate all this? How do you make it easy?
Yeah, excellent. It was like the biggest pain in the world to have to, it was fun to write down the addresses and look at homes. That was a blast. But when it came down to actually coming home and looking up the addresses and writing a letter and getting that out to the owners, that was a huge pain in the butt. And so much so that I just didn't do it. So there you go. If you don't do the actions, you're not going to get any results.
Well, yeah, because it's a numbers game, and you got to follow through on all this mundane crap that you have to do. And very few people find all that emotionally satisfying. It's like something you have to do to get to the end result. And so you decided to streamline it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I actually drove by this house. It was a house I had thought I wrote down. I saw it was being constructed on. And so I looked up, and sure enough, it was on a piece of paper on the passenger seat of my car. And so that's when I went home and I was like, oh, I've got to look up all these addresses because I just missed out on that deal. And I looked at the price that the investor bought it for on the county records whenever I got home. And it was a price I could have beat. So I definitely feel like it was a deal that I missed out on. So yeah, I kind of solved my lack of follow-up with an app, because that was what clicked in my mind as a software developer was this could be automated. This part that's not emotionally fulfilling could be automated and allow me to focus on what I enjoy most, which was at the time looking for rundown houses.
Yeah, and making deals. So it's getting contracts signed, right? Which is really where the money's made. So just describe DealMachine from A to Z in the bullet points. What is it? What is it capable of doing? From the very simplest to the most complicated.
Yeah, well, when people start out, they don't have a big budget, like you said. So if you're on a shoestring budget, driving for dollars may be the thing that you look to, because it's a much smaller niche list. You still have to market to the owners multiple times, but it's going to save you a lot of money because that list is so much smaller. And DealMachine, our bread and butter is the driving for dollars tool that can help you automate some of those mundane tasks and let you focus on finding those homes and doing deals. So it will actually track your route, where you've driven, so that you don't forget what area you've covered, and make sure you cover every area in a neighborhood that you do want to cover. And then it'll also send out a postcard. So you press a button and it'll send a postcard to the owner. If they live at the house, it's going to go there. If they live somewhere else, it's going to go find them and send to wherever the owner lives. And
that's one of the features I really like, because the problem is, it's a little more expensive to push that button and get the postcard out right now, but it got done. And that's the most thing, because at the end of the day, a little more expensive is bullshit compared to what you're going to make if you buy this house. None of it's going to matter if you buy a house. Not whether the mailing was $1 or $1.50 or $2. It's not going to matter if you buy a house.
It's actually 55 cents. That's the highest price. And it even goes down from there.
Okay. I stand corrected, but you see how stupid this is. You can push a button and send out a postcard for 55 cents. What I loved about DealMachine was you could get in front of the house and you could do a selfie with their house in the background and send that right now, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This separates you from every postcard on his kitchen table. The owner, when he's got all these postcards on his kitchen table, right? Because he's got a vacant house. It's probably obvious. So you may or may not be the only one sending to him. If there are multiple people sending him postcards, you're going to be the only one that he says, wow, that guy was at my house, because he's standing in front of it right now, because that's my house in the photo. And so if he's going to pick up even one postcard that evening off the kitchen table, it's going to be yours.
I've gotten tons of calls that said, I called you because it looked like you cared and I could tell you were actually here. It does make a difference.
Exactly.
I hear those phone calls.
Every little edge to buy a house counts. And this was a big edge, if you ask me. Your postcard is no longer just a generic piece along with everybody else's generic piece. Yours stands out head and shoulders above all else. And if for no other reason, that's why you should use DealMachine, because how many extra houses would that get you a year? 1, 2, 5, 10? Even if it just gets you one, what's the average profit on a house? 20,000, 30,000? I don't know, it depends where you're at, but
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've had people, so get this. So you could send out one postcard, and we have had some people tell us that they got a deal from the very first postcard they sent out. However, over 80% of deals happen after the first postcard, meaning sending the second, third, and fourth. And so I was barely sending out the first one, definitely wasn't sending out a second, third, or fourth one. DealMachine can automatically send that second, third, and fourth postcard from it's automatically going to happen, right? You can change the settings for what it does by default, but so many of those deals come after the first postcard. And that's going to be a critical feature as well, to making sure you don't procrastinate, making sure you don't forget, and actually getting the deal from the work you did driving around.
It's about consistency, right? And being consistent is very hard. We have very busy lives. We got weddings, we got divorces, we've got deaths, we've got Christmases, we've got vacations. And, you need a system that's going to keep delivering whether you're in or out of the office. It doesn't matter. It's about consistency. And the people that get that are the people that are buying houses. By the way, we're having a record year this year. Over 50 properties purchased in the first quarter.
Whoa, 50 properties?
Same 3 acquisition managers, same co-owners, me and Mike Powell. We asked, what is going on?
What is going on?
It was still the toughest environment in the planet. I think we're going to go into a boom now with this inflation. I think we're going to see some chaos that could benefit house buyers. But, in the first quarter of this year, there really wasn't anything new going on. Interest rates were still where they were at. What we deduced was the acquisition managers are now 5, 6, and 7 years with us. They're becoming pros. If they hadn't become a pro a year ago or whatever, they're becoming consummate pros. And they have been working on the follow-up system ever since. And the follow-up system is really, really good now. And a lot of those, 18,000 people that we're stuck to right now, trying to get an answer from them, yes or no, or we're not really, we're trying to get the answer yes, or it's already been sold. We made a decision. So that's the only two answers we're looking for. Have you sold it? If the answer is yes, then we're done. And if the answer is no, then we keep going. And I think a lot of those people caved in this quarter. And we've been following a lot of them for 2 and 3 and 4 years.
Got it. So you have 18,000 people that you've marketed.
Last I heard, I'm going to guess it's more than that.
Yeah.
But these are the top tier ones. Like, we're not letting go of this one. This house has so much equity. This house is, really speaks to us. Like, we're following up on a lot more than that. But these are the top ones that we're definitely want to make sure that we're hitting effectively, because they smell like they have the most room in them to make some real good money.
Love it. So yeah, out of the box, you could use DealMachine to have your own follow-up system.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We went and did Podio, and $50,000 later, it's pretty damn good. You know what I mean? We're tweaking it. But first of all, most people don't have that kind of budget. Second of all, I don't even know if you want to do it. If you do have that budget, we didn't think it was going to be that much. It just ends up, technology and programming can get out of hand. You know what I mean? And looking back, we should have stayed with some stuff. The problem is with a lot of things is you can't customize it, but you can customize DealMachine now. Of course, when we met a long time ago, it was a different product. You've morphed and made improvements, right?
Yeah. One thing I was going to ask is, how difficult was it to teach your acquisitions managers how to properly comp a deal and figure out what a deal is actually worth, how much equity it actually has, and what they should offer?
Yeah, well, it's different for different people depending on how smart they are, how savvy they are. But the one thing is, it's really important that they get it right, because that's where you lose your asses. If you don't do the comps right, you're start off on the wrong foot right from the beginning, and that could be really detrimental.
Yeah. So one of the brand new things we came out with DealMachine, since you were asking how it morphed, is actually MLS comps. So you can have it in the palm of your hand, and you can take a look at what are the comparable sales for this property you're looking at that you might be going to visit. So you can do it on your computer. You can do it on the way there. And it's really important to have that data in a state like Texas, because the county will not tell you how much stuff sold for. It's called a non-disclosure state. And I think there's like 10 states that are non-disclosure states. But DealMachine can provide you the sale data from the MLS inside of DealMachine. So for all 50 states, including Texas. So that's a brand new thing, Mitch, that I'm really excited to share, because comps are so hard unless you have a tool that easily spells it out for you, plus having access to the data.
Wouldn't it be nice, even if you had this machine, DealMachine, and you're talking to a wholesaler and he's trying to tell you this house is worth X amount of dollars, and you say, hold on a second, what's the address? So you could have some really important to verify, especially if as an owner, like I'm not running comps, you know what I mean? Or I don't have time to run the comps. The guys talk to me about a house. I'm sitting there getting in my car going, do I have time to go back to the office and run all these comps? Which usually the answer is no. So I have to delegate it out, which means I pick up a partner. And I could avoid all that by just getting on DealMachine and having them tell me, okay, well, that was easy. Yeah. I'll take the deal. No, you need to come down about 15,000 and then we have a deal, Yep.
There is a special offer that we have today. I don't know if you want to talk about that quite yet, but if you do,
let's do it. What's the special offer today?
It's the comps. You get access to the comps for free for a year. That's it's normally $240, but you get it absolutely free. And you would just use
$40 a year or what?
Right now it's a $20 a month add-on. So it's $240 a year that you would get for free by using your promo code.
Yeah, but $20 a month even. I love it that it's free. And so you got to use the promo code 1000houses.com/Mitch. Okay? Use that, and that'll get them the free year, right?
Yeah, free year of comps, which is $240.
So this is ridiculous, because remember, we used to fight and want to pay $100 a month for comps. If we could get to some MLS, some realtor that had MLS, we'd offer to split their dues or something. I mean, comps are invaluable, whatever you got to pay for them. You know what I mean? So now here you go, you're getting for $20 a month and you get the first month free, pretty much a no-brainer.
Yeah. And it's a better interface than whatever you were splitting with your realtor. I guarantee it.
Yeah, well, I hope you smooth that out because their interface is pretty complicated sometimes.
Right. It is. This is very, very easy to use.
Okay, so you can drive for dollars. It'll mark the roads you've been down. You can pin certain properties so that when you get home, you can do the research, but you can do the research on DealMachine because you can do it. And if you're out and about and you decide, I want to send a postcard to this house right now, you can take a picture of the house, or you can take a selfie with the house in the background, or whatever you do, you take the picture, you can hit button and it'll use that photograph as the postcard. Of course, now you've already got what the postcard says kind of set up, your phone number, your contact information. It's already pre-set up. So you've done a little homework before you're out there doing this, okay? You've got it set up. And then you take the picture and you hit send. What are you saying, 55 cents to send out a postcard? Then you can set up how you want the follow-up to go to that house. You want them to be mailed once a week, once a month? What do you want to do?
Yeah, default is 21 days. So that's what we would recommend, every 3 weeks. It is 55 cents, but you can even get it lower, down to 42 cents if you're bulk buying. If you're sending a lot of mail, like $10,000 worth of mail at a time, you can get price discounts too. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay.
The other thing we didn't talk about
from you is was it from the post office or both?
Everything's through DealMachine. You can design it, or you can look at all of our designs and pick one. Everything is through DealMachine. So it's going to be sending with your name on it, though. If you're the one sending it through the app, it's going to have your name and return address on it.
Yeah. Cool. And then so if it doesn't reach the person, do you always get the return mail, or at bulk rates, do you not get the return mail? How does that work?
That's a great question. So all the postcards through DealMachine are first class mail, which means they are barcoded. And if they are returned to sender, you'll get the physical mail most of the time. But what happens every time is we actually get the barcode scan that it was returned to sender, and it will automatically stop sending repeat mail. And you'll get that in your DealMachine account. You can look at all the pieces of mail that were returned to sender. So it takes care of any housekeeping you'd want to do on your own, which is stop sending mail to these return to sender properties.
Hey, that's the beginning of it, because now you got an address where your postcard's not getting there. And if your postcard's not getting there, then nobody's postcard's getting there. So you find this guy and get him on the phone or get him face to face, and you have no competition.
Those are the slam dunk deals too, because you're right. Nobody else takes the extra step to go skip trace, cold call, text message, research these properties. They're often the biggest deals because nobody else does the extra legwork to find those.
Are y'all now doing any assistance in skip tracing or anything, or can I drop?
Oh yeah, you can absolutely. Yeah, you can absolutely skip trace. Do you have a skip trace option as well that you were going to talk about?
I do, but I didn't want to step on your toes if you have a skip trace built into the DealMachine, and I didn't know if you did or not. So do you have a skip trace built in?
There is. Yeah, it's okay. You can do one off, or you can upload a list and do bulk, and it's either way. It's going to be in your DealMachine account. If you need to, you could call it right from your app. So you could also export it into a dialer if you're going to do some big bulk, calling. So you can do all that with DealMachine.
Okay, so I don't know what else you want if you're a newbie. If you're just getting in the business, driving for dollars is one of the best, because you kind of create your own list, and you'll probably be finding some properties that no one's even thought about or even been by or even seen. We've been using I'm trying to think of LandGlide, right? LandGlide. Yeah. You can kind of see the ownership and who owns it and everything, but you don't have to do that anymore. One of the reasons we were using LandGlide was just to see, are there any improvements on, we'd zoom out like Google Earth, and we'd see if there was a mobile home or a pond, or, if there was any improvements there, because sometimes all you can see is a chain across a dirt road, and there's an interest to a property there, but you didn't know how many acres it was, and you didn't know what was on that property. You could tell, though, that no one had been into that property for many, many months, because the grass is 3 feet high. There's no tire tracks through that grass. So this land is neglected or being ignored. And then you drill down to find. So you don't need that anymore with DealMachine, right? Can you zoom in and zoom out
Yeah, you can zoom in and zoom out just like you can with LandGlide. We've just added service on top of it, so you can also skip trace it right there. So you can send the postcard right there. and you can run the comps for that property right there in the mobile app of DealMachine.
So you can't do that. You can't do that in Landglide. So tell us, what does DealMachine cost? Choice A, B, C, and D, or however many choices there are.
Yeah, the driving for dollars that we've been talking about starts at $59. Of course, the comps add-on is $20, but you get that for free when you use Mitch's promo code.
1000houses.com/Mitch. Okay.
That's it. Yep. We do have a couple higher levels of the plan that if you have a spouse, say, and you want to both use the app, or if you want to hire a driver or hire multiple drivers, we do have a couple other higher level plans that let you have those drivers. So that's professional at $119, and then elite lets you have 300 drivers, and we give you the tools to recruit and train those drivers if you really want to blow it out of the water. Yeah, that is $240 a month, and it's an annual payment, so you pay for the whole year up front.
Guys, $240 a month, if you can squeeze it out, that's for people who you're going to get up to 300 drivers. So that's for a little more sophisticated person. A newbie probably not going 240 right this minute, but you can always upgrade, right? You really need an assistant. Even the first thing I tell newbies is you got to get an assistant the minute you can, because you might not think you can afford them, but really you can't afford not to have one, especially if you're working a full-time job and you're trying to do this after hours. You're burning the candles at both ends. You need an assistant that can be working all day long while you're not. So figure out how to, at the minimum, get a VA, from the Philippines or from Spain or whatever. But in this case, maybe you need to have an on-the-ground assistant to drive for dollars and get some properties in a pipeline, in a closing pipeline right now, because once you make $15,000, $20,000 a couple of times, paying this guy $2,000 or $2,500 a month to work while you're at home is not undoable. The thing is you got to get a couple of houses through the pipeline and get paid as soon as possible, so that, like I said, you have a budget. And I've even paid people by the day. Just like it used to be $100 a day plus $20 for gas. This probably needs to be more like $200 a day today because of gas and everything else. But $200 drive. Well, how many houses can you find in a day? When I was doing it, you could find about between 90 and 130 properties in a day. Original, not on anybody else's list, probably properties, which was a tremendous off-market marketing day, And right. in a city with 2.5 million or whatever San Antonio is, I mean, we can drive for days and days and days on end and never cover the same streets. Mm-hmm. You also learn a lot about your town.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Nothing like being out there and looking at actual properties, seeing where stuff is, where the good neighborhoods are, where the bad pockets are. You learn that the best when you're out there.
Now, I would say while I'm driving for dollars, it would probably pay in a short period of time, or relatively short period of time, if you had your signs on your car, front and back window, and one on each door while you're doing this, because you're just driving all over town. And don't be surprised if someone walks up to you or writes down your phone number at a red light one day and says, "I saw you driving around. I'd like to buy your house." Now, signs on vehicles are not going to make you, they're not going to overwhelm you with calls. Maybe you'll get one, maybe you'll get 4 calls in a year, maybe 4. You can always count on 1, maybe 2. The most I've heard is about 4 per year, but 4 deals a year at 20,000 is an extra 80 grand.
Yeah.
So, and I think 20,000 is kind of middle of the road, right? I keep thinking maybe I should say less, but then there's a lot of houses I make 30 and 40 and 50,000 on. So I think 20 grand is a real safe number. Do you?
Yeah, you definitely know what you're doing. So I think 20,000 is safer for somebody who's just breaking into it. Even if it's 10,000, you're still making 40 grand a year when you do 4 deals like that.
Yes. And you never know when you're going to get lucky. Sometimes people sell you one house and you do them a good job, or you show up and do what you're supposed to do on time. And then they give you 3 or 4 more houses because they just inherited an estate. You just never know. You have to do what you say, though. You have to be forthright. And that's probably been the biggest catapult in my career, is like, I just hate to let people down. I hate to let people down. If I tell them, I almost die before it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Even if on the few occasions when I just couldn't, people saw the effort that I made. They said, he obviously just couldn't do it, but but I made huge efforts and people saw it. Where from here? So we covered the cost. I mean, no matter what you do, finding a house is going to cost you money. I don't care. So you have to find an efficient, fast way. I mean, no matter what you do, there's going to be expense tied to it. This is one of the most economical and affordable ways I know. And if I was starting over again, this would be the first thing I did, the very first thing I did. And I'm not making this up. I had to, I started in the Stone Age. I had to do shit on rock tablets with a chisel. I mean, it was hard. And thanks to people like David Lecko, we don't have to do that. We might have to learn some new tricks, like how to manipulate a computer. I'm 61, so I've been chasing that technology bus that left me behind ever since high school. But I get a ride on it every now and then, so I know what to do.
Yeah, and it's designed to be really, really simple, so you don't have to be a tech savvy person to understand it and use it and add the properties and send the mail. Those are the two things you need to do. There's a lot of.
We were talking in the interface in the green room before this, and I was telling David he did such a great job with the interface, because the problem with a lot of these apps and softwares is they're not very user friendly. And you have obviously spent a lot of time. I don't know if you get a lot of input from people and then go back and make changes, or you just do a lot of, I don't know, upfront.
We do a lot of testing is how we actually figure it out.
Okay, testing. That's what I was looking for.
We were listening to a lot of input, and a lot of the input was like, hey, can you let us design our own piece of mail? Yes, we did that. Hey, can you let us have more drivers? Yes, we did that. Hey, can you give us these analytics? Yes, we did that. It became overpowering. So the brand new person would not know the two things they need to actually do, which is just add properties, and 2, send mail. Those are the 2 things you have to do to get a deal. And so what we did is we tucked all those advanced features away so that they're still there if you want to do them, but they are not right in your face. They are not confusing in any way. When you first pick up the app, the only 2 things you have to do is add properties and send mail. And that is it. 2 things.
Stay with the core thing that makes the money.
Yeah.
Sending a property and making sure it's getting the postcard.
Yep.
On a regular basis.
Yeah. Then you get people on the phone. Then you can talk about doing a deal. But unless you do that, like me, when I didn't have the app, I was just having fun looking at properties. Well, that didn't get me any deals. And so, you got to do the second part, which is send mail, but you don't have to worry about anything else right when you're getting started. Those are the only 2 things. Okay, you guys, go to 1000houses.com/Mitch, sign up for DealMachine and get 1 year of MLS access for free. 1 whole year. That's a $20 a month value, which is $240 for the year. So it's a $240 value if you'll use 1000houses.com/Mitch. Now, if you just want to go to DealMachine on your own, go ahead, but it's going to cost you $20 a month. So use the promo code, please, and get your money's worth, man. So step out there and try it. Anything else we need to add before maybe we wrap it up? David, did I miss anything? Well, I think we could actually end where we started, which was you said you went to college just for a short time and you didn't end up continuing on because real estate was too big of a bug for you. Did you actually get where you wanted to go? Like, did you have the freedom that you wanted and that you kind of sought after?
Well, look, I quit college because I was listening to a professor who was telling me that he was filing bankruptcy. And it just seemed audacious to me that I was having to pay this man to get an education on how to make a living and he was going broke. And it just pissed me off. And I walked out of class and I'm like, I'm done with this. If I'm going to pay somebody, I'm going to pay someone who back, in 1976, when $1 million was really $1 million, or not even really was it still $1 million. But I'm not listening to anybody unless they make $1 million or a couple of $1 million a year. I'll pay that guy. If they're going broke filing bankruptcy, I'm not paying them. I don't even want to waste my time to even sit there if they want to give the class away. I'm not going to go listen to someone who's telling me how they are filing for bankruptcy. Not that if you've ever filed bankruptcy, it's the end of the world. We can all come back, but that's not exactly who I want to learn from on that day. I'd rather learn from the guys who are not in bankruptcy today. And so it took me about 10 years to find where I would belong. From that day that I walked out of that classroom, it took me about 10 to 12 years. I was 34 when I finally stumbled into real estate. People ask me, what led you to real estate? And I tell them, and it's really basically true. There was nothing else left to try. If this didn't work, I was just going to go, jump off a cliff or something, because I had literally tried and failed at everything else. And I didn't belong there. And luckily I finally found where I belonged in 34, since in the last 30 years, I bought 3,000 houses, seller financed, and did find that freedom. There was some quirks in that though. As a self-driven ADD, hard charging, dual candle in burner guy, I actually had to learn. I trapped myself. I worked myself to death. You know what I mean? I built my own prison and put myself in a cell. And it took me a little while to figure out how to get out of that cell and how to keep the money coming in with me being to be on the outside of the prison, and just running the prison and find people to help me. That's probably a really bad analogy, but what I'm saying is you got to use technology and people to enjoy the freedom that you really want the money for. Because if you think about what you want money for, everyone thinks about cars and boats and airplanes, but really what you want the money for, they're no good if you can't use them. They're no good if you don't have time. You really want the money for the freedom. And be careful that you don't start a business that has you in chains.
Yeah.
And how you do this is through technology like DealMachine and VAs and help. And I would start from the beginning trying to build a business that could operate without me, because that's ultimately you're going to end up waking up and saying, wow, I should have built a business that could run without me because I'm getting tired. Yeah. I don't care who you are, you will get tired at some point because you're get older and older and older.
100%. So I'm glad that you had that realization, right? You were working really hard to build the real estate business, which is good. A lot of people quit too soon. And that was going to be my advice for any newbies. It's just like, hey, understand this is going to take work to get going. But then you're saying once you're doing deals, find ways, bring an assistant to help you run aspects of it that you don't necessarily have to do. And that way you can enjoy the money and the freedom that you get. You can buy the car and actually drive it, not just put it in your garage. You can buy the boat
and actually have the weekend to use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the week.
I like that.
So when you'll know that you need help is when you're starting to get exasperated and you're overwhelmed. When you start getting that feeling, you go, okay, I have too much money or I have too many things to do and I can't handle them all. How do I get some of this off my back? That's your first sign. When you start throwing your throwing your phone and banging on your desk and getting really frustrated and pulling your hair out, then you're there. You need some help.
Yeah.
And that's the first sign. At least that's how I figured it out. Is that how you figured it out?
I'm still figuring it out. Yeah. It's always kind of a yin and yang, where I've gone through periods where everything seems like it's running really well and I almost don't feel needed. That's kind of like a identity crisis, if you will, because you don't feel needed anymore. Something goes wrong and I've got to jump back in there and solve the problem. And that actually can feel good too.
All right, my friend, this is David Lecko with DealMachine. Again, go to 1000houses.com/Mitch and get a free year's worth of MLS comp data. And that's a $20 a month saving, $240. I really like to thank you for being on, David. You've moved to Austin, so you're not too far from me.
I'm very close, right? A couple hours.
So you're going to come down to the ranch with me one day?
Are you going to send me an invite?
I just invited you. We just have to find it.
Yeah, I'm coming.
All right. This is Mitch Stephen with 1000 Houses podcast. I'd like to thank David Lecko and DealMachine. And I'd like to thank all of y'all out there for being so gracious and hanging with me for over 540 episodes. So, we've been doing this for a while, trying to deliver good content, trying to give you something that's worth listening to. And if you ever want to do me a favor, go on anywhere and just tout the 1000houses.com podcast. It would help me out. And I appreciate you guys for being with us all this time. We're out of here. Bye now.
See ya.